Welcome to the Shameless Plug, a podcast about climate, energy, and most of all, about electrification. In this first episode of the Shameless Plug, we're going to talk to Chris Kerr. He's an electric foil surfer by day. He's somebody who has embarked on a whole electrification journey with his family, and he works in supporting the electrical trades in his day job. He was going to take us on a fabulous journey of his own personal climate and electrification journey and teach us a little bit about why electrification is going to be good for your pocketbook, good for your comfort, good for your health, and even good for your extreme sports. Hello, Chris Kerr. Welcome to the Shameless Plug.
Thank you. So I'm glad to be here.
Chris, I had the great pleasure of interviewing you when I was writing the book Plug In. And the reason I wanted to interview you for that book is I think you tell one of the loveliest personalized stories of why electrification can be good for you, can be good for your family. And it's such a warm story. I'm really just hoping that we can get into today your electrification journey. With some hopes, the whole world is going to go on this electrification journey in the next couple of decades. So let's start in.
Happy to share it. Where do you want to start?
Well, where's the beginning? What was the first thing that triggered you on this journey?
Well, I think we spoke about in the book about I got an electric bike. That was where I really started. That was would have been 6-7 years ago. I had a big, as you do in Australia, had a big SUV that I used to drive 10 kilometres every day that used to chew up a lot of petrol. And I was getting stuck in traffic. I was traffic all the time. And I'd sort of looked on Google Maps around how could I get to home? I'm in Sydney, or it was at that stage, and next to the Lane Cove National Park. So I was looking for tracks where I could go. And if I was going to go and move to a bike, I had to do it without getting up a sweat. Because in my day job, I wear a suit and tie, and I wanted to wear the suit I wanted to make it ultimately convenient. So I wanted to wear that suit and tie, bike to work, which was, again, 10, maybe a little bit longer than that, 10 kilometres, and turn up refreshed without having to have a shower and get everything done like that. So I purchased an electric bike, and I waxed lyrical about that for almost 6 months. It was just an amazing journey. It gave me the opportunity to decompress from a high-stress job, and I was out in nature enjoying it, loving the part of it by beating the traffic. I love efficiency. And it came to, after that 6 months, my wife was asking me to sell this massive car that had been sitting on our lawn for 6 months doing nothing. And I told everybody about that journey, how good that was. I was just like, oh man, this has just opened it up. And I'd been a cyclist beforehand, but I'd always thought that cycling with an electric bike was cheating. But what it actually gave me a benefit was, I wasn't going to sweat when I go up hills now because I've got the electric motor. So I didn't have to change my suit. And I got to work, and there was a bike park that no one was using. And that's where it really started. And it was just like, okay, well, from here, what more can I do? And I think that was about 2019. In 2020, of course, we had COVID hit. We'd had a planned holiday in June of 2020 to go to a nice tropical island, and we'd saved up for that. And COVID hit, which meant that we were going to sit around for a fair bit. At the same time, we got in a very, very expensive power bill. We are a big family, a family of 6, including my wife. And that was $1,500. So it was like, okay, well, that's, if I just go 1,500 times 4, then times 10, I'm spending a lot of money. And
so 1,500 times 4 means so 4 of those $1,500 bills a year, $6,000.
Yeah. I just thought, okay, well, our family's growing. Our kids were only we've got 4 kids. They're all quite tightly together. And I thought, okay, well, our energy needs are only just going to grow. What we're getting now is not what we're going to be getting in the future, or in terms of our usage, and also the cost. I can see it's going up. So at that $1,500, I just went, okay, well, times 4, times 10, right? We just have to cancel a holiday, so let's reinvest that into a power station, so for home. So and we went through a journey on this, right? We made a few mistakes. I from a long time ago, I have an electrical background, and even though I work in the electrical industry, I hadn't sort of really touched around this space before for a long time. So it was like, okay, well, we've got this money. We're going to be sitting around for a wee while, especially in Australia. We had COVID restrictions for almost 2 years. And so we said, okay, well, let's put in some solar panels. And at that stage, I thought, okay, well, the average kilowatt system in Australia at that stage was 7 kilowatts. And I knew we'd always be restricted by the funnel, which is the collector, obviously, for the sun, and the solar panels being that. And so we went 14 kilowatts, which was huge, all north facing. And
so this is the 2020. That's double the average's size at that point.
Yeah, double the average. Yeah, so we went big because I thought, okay, well, we'll be able to distribute it if we have a problem. And that really started the journey, because what we quickly learned was on a normal day, we were almost getting 120 kilowatts and our house was only 40 kilowatts of usage. So then we were like, okay. And I'd done some ROI models like you do. And, I was relying on exporting that to the grid and getting a reasonable return. But after a year, policy changed in Australia, and where I live, they basically said you're only allowed to export 5 kilowatts per hour. Right, okay, so now my great solar system and my inverter is now throttling down to meet that 5 kilowatts exporting. So that really started okay, we need to electrify our house. We need to put as much load as we can into our house. And what I mean by load is the usage. We need to convert, everything that's fossil fuel to electric, because I've made this investment, or we've made this investment. I don't want to throttle it down. I want to use it. So
this strikes me as peculiarly dad math. Like, I went to the store, I bought the extra large. I found out it was too big, but I decided to grow into it.
Yeah. I've got an aluminium smelter in my backyard now.
And that's exactly what happened. So it was sort of, okay, well, let's what are we going to do? So and I'm thinking about the order. So we're now restricted. So we decided, okay, we'll put a load controller on for the water heater. Which is basically just distributing that sunshine. It was all set up so that, it would start off with, grabbing from the solar and then from the grid last. Then we bought a spa. So it was like, we never thought about a spa before, ever. That's very much a luxury. I bought an electric lawnmower. I bought an electric barbecue. And so we basically just removed all of the fossil fuel out of the house. But we still had a problem. We had too much. We're still throttling down. It's pretty hard to use 120 kilowatts of power. So even though we were, we had already had ducted aircon, heating and cooling in the house. So we ran that all the time just because we could. And the water heater's now sorted. And so then we decided, okay, we've still got excess, so we need to store this excess. So in 2021, we bought a 20 kilowatt battery, which was 10. Normally the average was 10. And we said, okay, well, 20 should be able to shoulder us through this.
Chris Kerr, people, twice as many children as the average Australian, twice the solar, twice the batteries.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we then, so now we're storing it and we've still got too much. so we weren't using enough. And through that journey, and how I describe it to people is, we were looking at it, or I was looking at it from a return on investment, ROI. If I asked the others in my family, or our family, if I talked to my wife, we made an incredibly comfortable house. So a return on comfort. So ROC, my wife would say ROC, I can do anything that I want. I could turn on everything. I can cool it as cold as I want. I can make it as hot as I want.
Was it the ROI or the ROC that installed the spa?
That was a bit of both. Well, if we didn't have that, then that definitely wouldn't have got to ROC. There was no way. We would have looked at it and said, the running cost of that is quite expensive if you were just running it straight from the grid. And then my kids would look at it from a return on environment, ROE. So it's quite circular. So ROI, ROC, and ROE. So in your house, there's this attitudinal segmentation that it's not always so linear in terms of, I move through all of those as well. So, and I'm sure my wife does as well. So yeah, we basically learned as we went. And one of the things that we did learn was we probably spent too much money on the battery, because the next step that we made was we bought an EV. And that EV was a 72 kilowatt battery for roughly the same price. It wasn't an inexpensive car, but, the battery size and the battery cost was almost the same cost as the car.
What you're saying there is that it was a giant battery on wheels with a free car.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And we just saw it as a big energy soak pit. So anything that didn't go into the home batteries went into the car battery. So, and then we started to max the system. We started okay, we're maxing it now. And we're not going to put any more panels on. So can we get more efficient? What can we do to help ourselves? And that's when I got into trouble by tinkering. And what we quickly learned was that there is critical infrastructure in the home, just like there is in buildings and offices, etc. And that's water heating. So what I tried to do, being a natural optimizer, was try to, how finely close can I get this optimized and efficient so that my wife can have a hot shower and my kids can have a hot shower, and without having a problem. And I quickly found out that actually it's not worth the optimization, because one cold shower meant that my wife was throwing out the complete system out of the house and didn't want to have anything to do with it. But so one of the things that we learned was just to set and forget, we have this, we can fine tune it. I think naturally some of us want to, get down to the nth degree. But when you've got such a good funnel and we've got that nuclear reactor in the sky, then that can, really power your home. So, so we went through this journey and we learned a lot. We've almost done, in the EV, just on 100,000 Ks now. And pretty much that's been, there's only been around $450 of paid electricity running that car. So it has all been from solar, or it's been free from somewhere else, like a workplace or something like that.
So 100,000 kilometers for $450.
Yeah, $450.
Not even a half a cent per kilometer.
Yeah. Not many people believe that when I tell them that, but that is the absolute truth. If I look at high DC charging, the little apps that you get, and I add it all up, I go, well, that's what I've paid for. Everything else has been done with the solar. And what we learned quickly with the EV, and I know I'm bouncing around a bit, was, when I first got the car, people said, always be charging. But what we learned was actually the best time to charge was when the car was dwelling the most. So when it was sitting the most. And that happened to be on the weekend. So that's when we would give the full charge. So I think we've been taught that we need to charge things and plug things all the time because of iPhones and stuff like that. But actually, we should treat our cars a bit like a Nokia, that old school phone that you can used to last 3 or 4 days at least. So, yeah, so it's been from the bike to the car, it's been quite a journey of electrification.
So just to add a little bit of colour to that, so when you started this journey, I think you said 2019 with the bike-ish, kids were how old?
The eldest was 6, and I had 4 and 2-year-old.
And then you finished in 2022 with the EV?
Yes. Yeah, well, actually a little bit earlier than that. 2021. So we got the battery 2021, 21, basically, battery and car.
Was there anything, I mean, you said that you talked about the battery and the timing of getting a battery, and you were like, well, that might have been a little bit of a mistake doing that because of when the car came along. Was there anything that in that process, going from bike right through to where you are now, that kind of has surprised you along the way? Was there anything that just kind of made you go, oh, I didn't realize, this would be this good, or I didn't realize that this would be a problem, or any surprises?
Yeah, so when I say about the battery, I probably would have invested more in the car. I would have gone 10 kilowatt and then more into the car.
Yeah, right.
So,
okay.
But we sort of went battery and then we went car. So I could have got a bigger battery kilowatt car. So, and it's expensive. It's $1,000 per kilowatt at that stage to put it on the wall. And it was almost the same to get a car. So the same, from battery size point of view. So, look, I think we learned that electric is a lot easier. Like, even if I give you an example with the motor mower, I didn't, I thought, electric mower. I thought about those corded ones, the ones that you saw in the in the 90s running over the cord.
The Flymo.
Yeah, the Flymo.
My mum had one of those.
Yeah. And I thought, this thing's going to be awful. But actually, it would mow the grass in the wet. It would be raining and it would mow the grass because it just made sense. It had an incredibly low torque. It did an awesome job, and it was a lot easier and it was a lot nicer because you didn't have all those fumes all over your clothes. Afterwards it was sort of like, it's actually quite nice to mow the lawns.
And it's quite quiet as well.
Very, very, very quiet. And then it was using the battery to drive the mower and stuff like that. So that was...
My household, when we had the petrol mower, it was my job.
Yeah.
And now it's an electric mower.
Seriously, that's what's happened in our house as well. We've got an electric mower and then I got an electric whippersnapper. I'm convinced that there's a stage, like a midlife stage, where you go from... when you go to a party when you're in your late 30s, everybody talks about upright vacuum cleaners. And then the next stage on from that, everybody starts talking about, maybe this is what the women are talking about, but everybody starts talking about electric garden tools. And you just like, they are a gateway drug. You can never have enough of them.
Yeah, look.
So good.
To my wife, she was, when we bought the electric car, she was like, oh, mate, this journey's got to stop. Right?
Yeah.
I am not going to be plugging that thing in all of the time. I'm not going to be doing that. Right? But if I look at that now, I am now asked to go and fill the petrol car which is only 1 kilometre away at the petrol station. I am asked to go and do that because she doesn't want to go to the petrol station because it's dirty. Don't want to get my hands dirty. It's so easy to plug in your car. And I'm like, okay, well, that was the opposite of what you thought almost 3-4 years ago, So I think that's been surprising at the ease of it. And, we've learned all the way along, data, depending, with the systems that we've got, I can see all the data. My wife doesn't care at all, right? She just doesn't want to see the bill coming every month or every quarter in the post, which it isn't. So she doesn't, but I like to look at the app and the data and look at that difference over time. And in fact, we've now got 5 years of data, and so monthly data on consumption and also production. And on the weekend, it was awful weather in New South Wales. It was raining. I'm pretty sure it would have been the same where you guys are. And I thought, I'm going to have a look at the comparative months over the last 5 years. It just puts it into a graph for you, and you can have a look at it. And it was winter here in Australia, and I was thinking, I'm just over this winter. I'm just,
You didn't like the big swell that came with it?
Oh, no, I like that. Yeah. Hopefully I'll still be liking that for a wee while. So, it's our lowest production. If there's any chance we're going to be grabbing from the grid, it's going to be in July. And I looked at it. I looked at and I thought, oh my God, look at August. August for the last 4.5, 5 years is, would you believe, more production than January or February. So you go from July to August, and then you're like, oh my God, this is all good. So it's like summer is coming. The hours are getting longer, cooler mornings, the solar panels are working better. It's the August and September is the best month ever. Yeah, so it's just getting longer. There's cooler mornings, the sunshine. If I looked on the app today, we're probably up to 70 kilowatts, 75 kilowatts of production. You do that over a good month, then, we're at January, February, basically production. So that was nice to see. And then I start going into, okay, well, how do we, we're going to, how are we going to optimize this over the next 6 months to get the best possible use out of it? What more are we going to put? Last year, we added the last electrical thing on, which was a pool heater. So we had a swimming pool. The person came in to put it in and said, you're going to need a 9 kilowatt pool heater. I'm like, no. Everything's low and slow here. So I don't need it heated tomorrow. I need it heated over the next month. So you've got to come with that ethos as well in your home. Is if you're not after that quick and instant, then, we just use I think it's a 2.5 kilowatt pool heater. It goes all day for 3 weeks and the pool's up to speed. So that is,
and by all day you mean when the sun is shining?
Yeah, when the sun is shining. Yeah. A little bit can run off the battery as well. We don't use that 20 kilowatts overnight. It's a good feeling when you get up early in the morning and you look at your battery and you go, oh, I've got 40% still left. But that's the nerd in me to look at that. So
there's a very popular book going around America at the moment called Abundance, and it's about the abundance agenda, and it's an effort for progressives to try and say, we can build a better world. Sounds like you are living the abundance agenda, and abundance is a 15 kilowatt solar system and and a couple of big batteries.
Yeah. But
a spa pool.
Yeah. And we would not have considered those things, So it's sort of, it is luxurious, but we don't feel guilt at all. We do not feel guilt when we drive the car. The electric car got to 100,000 Ks because it's the car of preference to be taken anywhere. It is, even though we've got the diesel car, the only reason that gets taken is if we have one more person that needs to go. So, and it's, my wife feels better for driving that. She feels it's safer. We haven't got the big engine, big cast iron block on the front. And switching between the two, it's, quite different. And we tell people we have a hybrid, but it just happens to be in 2 different cars. So
it's a distributed hybrid.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And you're not keeping that diesel because of the zombie apocalypse. You're just keeping it because they don't have a 7-seat electric car yet. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we're just waiting for the right one to come along. With the one that we've got at the moment, there's 450 kilometers of range. Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting take too. So when I first got that car, it said 450. And then, in the winter, it gets a little bit lower. And in the summer, it stretches back out again. But what I noticed last year was that 450 was becoming 465, 475. I'm like, okay, what's happening here? So I took it into the car dealership and they went, no, looks all good. You've got a little bit of degradation of the battery. I'm like, well, why is the BMS telling me that it's, the battery management system telling me that it's getting more? He goes, "Oh, you're just getting more efficient in driving it."
Yeah.
And so I'm unconsciously getting more efficient in driving the car without thinking about it at all. So that's what's stretching the summer, is getting a little bit better. So I think my view on it is that any degradation that you might get is going to be offset by the efficiency and how you drive it over time. So when you first get the electric car, you're like zooming around, going crazy. This has got a great acceleration. But over time, especially doing long distances, we live regionally, so we live miles away from the metro area. You go down a big descent, and you're gaining 6-7 kilometers, and it's
I'm yet to find the person who does the honest household accounting of their electricity, their cost of electrification, because nearly everyone I know gets a speeding ticket in the first couple of months of their electric car.
I got very close to losing my license in the first year, and that's when in New South Wales they didn't need to give a warning sign about where speed cameras were, and most of my speeding fines were only 2 or 3 kilometres over the speed limit. So I was very happy when they brought out the little signs to be put in front, because I wasn't over speeding. It was just, it's very easy to do 106, 107 in it, and you don't know. It's just so quiet.
And to calibrate, that's the thing that I've got a theory that people who get an electric car, I'm pretty sure that they use the brakes more in the first, because it has the deceleration braking, but it takes a while for you to adjust and get used to that. And so presumably you would become more efficient over time. But I also think the other thing about it is because you're so used to using engine noise to calibrate your speed, as soon as you don't have that, even going from a manual to an automatic, that's quite, that makes a difference. Then when you go to an electric, I had a shocking time with judging how fast I was going.
Why isn't anyone admitting that we all like cars and we all like them fast?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's good. I mean, you have another game level out there on the, when you're in the passing lane, I think it's safer to get out of the way quicker. But one of the unintended consequences of going electric, and then the first year I had to get windscreen insurance. That first year I was driving a lot regionally, and birds work off the engine noise. They don't work off you'd think they'd work off so I hit 2 really big birds, and I'm like, wow, okay, what's happening there? So I always thought they saw you. Maybe it's a mixture of both, but I think a lot of the time they hear you. So there'd be the wind noise and everything, but it must be the motor as well. So I bought windscreen insurance for the first time in my life for that electric car. So again, these sort of unintended consequences, like the battery.
Well, let's not start a conspiracy theory that electric cars are killing birds.
No. We didn't. I came close. I didn't hit. So when my dad, a long time ago, when my dad first taught me to drive, he said, "Okay, you must not brake going up hills. Use the hill to slow you down." And so it's the opposite, as you know, for the electric car. That the and still to this day, I'm telling my kids that I used to have a dynamo on my bike to light my light up when I would go to scouts when I was a young boy. And I tell them, well, that's exactly what's happening in the car as well. That 1 foot braking and accelerating is, very, very good.
Dynamo's a word you don't hear often enough anymore.
Yeah.
So, Chris, I have insider knowledge. So, Fiona and I actually know each other mostly through kite surfing originally. So that was how we became friends. I happen to know that you also enjoy the water and that your electrification project didn't end with the lawnmower.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, yes. Yeah. So we moved out of the metro area nearer to the beach. I'm fair-skinned. I've never loved the beach. I hated sunscreen and hated going on the sand and all that sort of stuff. But we moved to the beach, and I was using my electric bike around the hills and stuff like that. And I just realised, I want to get in the water. I'm 6'4". I thought I'm not going to go through this journey of surfing. So at that same time, foiling came along, which is the surfboard that levitates, almost looks like it levitates off the water. And having knowing how to fly a plane, that very much related to me. Like, oh, okay, I get it. I get how that works. But I don't really want to sit and I need to learn wave craft and learn to lead ocean craft. And right at that same time, electric surf foils came along, which is a little motor that basically pops you up, gets you onto foil, and then you turn it off and you foil around. So that started 3 years ago. And just in my area, I've done 12,000 Ks of electric surf foiling, off power and on power. I've learned that accelerated learning of something new using electric, just to give you a little bit of assistance, is super, super good. It would have taken me 10 years to what I've learned in 3 years of surf foiling without that motor built in. And
I just want to pause for a second to contemplate anyone whose ratio of surfing to driving kilometers is like 9 to 1. You're doing pretty well.
Yeah. So I love the ocean now. If I don't get in the ocean, there's something missing. There's definitely that thing about it. My kids are the same. So, on the weekend, that's where you'll find me and the family is out on the beach. And early in the morning, 6 a.m. when the sun rises in the summer. That's why I'm looking forward to summer so much, is getting those early, people will be going out and doing, going to the gym or whatever. I'm out in the ocean. And just the ultimate freedom that electric gives you is that I can go for 40 kilometres. These electric surf foils will do up to 55 kilometres an hour, flat out. So you can go and explore where no one's ever explored before, and do it in a super reliable, super good, tiny little motor that sits in the fuse that's at the bottom where the foils are. That sort of, looks like an airplane. So, yeah, it's I'm addicted to it. And the only way that I would have got to that is, and now I'm even teaching people surf foil. I do a foiling podcast as well, and teaching people to go through the same journey, that are, maybe the same age as well, thought they'd given it up and they go for it.
I love this as an example of a narrative of like the future is going to get better. I mean, everyone wants to tell you if we're going to lose the weekend, what about my jet ski? But I don't know. I think this is awesome.
The interesting thing about all of this electric stuff, so I go mountain biking and I've got both a non-electric and an electric bike. And every time I take the non-electric one, I think it's good, but I always think of just like, this is my last day on Earth. I'm pretty much giving that stuff just like absolutely, right, at my limit. But when when I'm out there and when I'm on the electric, there's people who, really, I don't think the places that we go, they just, I think they would struggle to go there without an electric bike. And that's amazing. That's so great that it's still exercise. It's not like people are, doing nothing, just using it like a motorbike. It's definitely exercise, but it's just opens it up to so many people. It's awesome.
Yeah, so you funny you should say that, because we've just got mountain bikes now, electric mountain bikes, because we've had a mountain bike park just open up near us. And yeah, like you're downhilling the uphills, I tell my wife. So that feeling that you get going downhill, you can now go uphill using the motor.
Although I've discovered that does also come with its own hazards.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's not like the water, not as forgiving as the water.
I feel like I'm in a safe place now to admit my new electrification project.
Tell us.
I have a ocean-going outrigger canoe.
Yeah.
And on still days, it's great. Going downwind is great. Going into the wind is horrible. And I also want to I want to get further out there. So the vision is I want to go all electric fishing, zero emission fishing.
Yeah, cool.
So I want to get a couple of miles out and then feel confident to bring the bonito home. So I've actually got one of the little electric motors from the electric surf foils, and I'm putting it on my
Perfect.
7-meter outrigger canoe, and I just love the idea of, paddle out, catch a marlin, and drag the marlin home with electric power.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I see people fishing off the motor foils as well. Like they just put a line on the back and they'll just go out and
trolling from your foil.
Foil, yeah. If you look on YouTube, if you ever look on YouTube, you'll see it.
Wow.
I don't know much, insert anything about foiling. Only roughly that I know how foil works. I'm assuming that, I'm assuming that you use a lot less energy. That's a lot more efficient to be riding along on a foil than it is to have the entire board touching the water.
Absolutely.
And so presumably, like you were saying that you could go a long way with your electric foil. I mean, is this sort of replacing a boat at this point, or replacing a jet ski, I guess, at this point?
Definitely jet ski, yeah. Unfortunately, we've got a lot of regulation in New South Wales, so they almost class it as a PWC, even though it's not.
Right,
but
okay.
you can, you can do around, you have different battery sizes that you put in. You put in, obviously, the more battery you put in, the heavier it is. But once you're up, when you start off, you're drawing about 1 kilowatt of energy. So that's in what we call the startup, and that's when the biggest load happens. But most of the time, you're sitting on 0.5 kilowatt of energy. So when you're foiling, so it's almost nothing. We've got a particular, and I'm just waiting for the right conditions as to go from my place to an island called Montague Island, which is about 45 kilometres as the crow flies.
Oh, I love Montague Island. There's some big fish out there on the way, though.
Yes, yeah. Actually, what I do a little bit of drone filming too, because there are some crazy people that you've probably seen out there, which is downwind foiling. So when the wind gets up, people actually foil those massive waves, and that's when you see some of the really big fish out there. So it's so that would be the same, but I need to wait for a super, super glassy day. There's a lot of current around Montague Island, so I'm going to give that a go at some stage with accompanied by another boat, hopefully. So it's but yeah, it is. That world has only opened up because of electrification, and I'm sure more things will open up because of that as well.
So this is a good question. The politics around wind farms in Australia is bad. In America, it's Donald Trump has just cancelled it. So you love, obviously, I can hear your joy at the ocean and being out in the nature. And how do we solve these culture wars about offshore wind and all of these things?
Yeah, I think with any challenge, it's all about storytelling, right? Look, there's brighter and bigger people than me to, I don't get involved in the politics of it. I don't see it, from my own personal opinion, when I see a wind farm or a farm out there, I'm not thinking this is destroying this environment. It is, but there has to be that full circle story. I think it has to talk about, okay, what is it doing? How do we recover it? From an ocean lover, that would be the only thing that I'm worried about is, well, when it's finished, what are we doing with it? How do we put that into the circular economy? People talked about that with me for the car, the battery car. They were like, yeah, but what's going to happen with the battery? And I said, well, when they went from horses to cars, they probably thought the same thing. What are we going to do with that big lump of metal at the front? And then they worked out, we need to repurpose that. We need to re-engineer it. We need to, there's an opportunity there. And I think the same is going to happen.
Well, part of the transition to cars was sold on the threat of, I think they predicted that New York would be under 3 foot of horse shit by 1910.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Although, to be fair, it is quite easy to repurpose a horse.
Well, actually,
Yeah.
what I'm seeing on YouTube is actually it's quite easy to repurpose a battery out of a car as well with the right knowledge.
I find this amazing. So I'm a metallurgist and think a lot about these things. And the things that we recycle the most are metals, and these batteries are mostly metals.
Yeah.
Really, this is the pathway. So even with the wind turbines, they're mostly metal. These are the most recyclable things that humanity does. This is our pathway to circularity.
Yeah. So I think it's storytelling basically, and and getting beyond and myth busting. I've done a lot of myth busting myself around, you know, cars and houses and electrification, just to make it simple. Well, this is the results. This is hard facts. So, okay, you can go with it or not, but it takes people. It's management or change management over time. It's the early adopters that take on these things, and then slowly we're starting to see it sort of filter down. When I first started with the electric car, you wouldn't see many electric cars. You wouldn't, and now, you see them everywhere. I see more cars electric regionally than what I do in metro. Now, you would think it was the other way around. I don't know, Fiona, if you were the same, but it's obviously maybe bigger houses, more opportunity for solar. But I always see, if a new electric car comes out, I'm seeing it first regionally than I am in the metro area.
I think people, the pennies are dropping. That it's just it's 20 cents cheaper per kilometre.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a bit of a theory about that too. So partly because regional people, we drive heaps. I drive 30,000 Ks a year. But I think also it's because people in regional areas, especially where Chris and I live, we live close to one another, higher rates of owner-occupied houses that tend to be completely detached, larger roofs. Whereas people in the city, there's a much higher proportion of renters. They're less likely to have solar access to solar power, and possibly will be a little bit harder. And they will also drive a lot less.
This is what boggles my mind about American climate and electrification politics. The red states have all the land, they have the big houses, they got the big roofs, they drive all the miles in their case, or kilometers, and they're just not adopting it. The culture war there is insane. But to your point of storytelling, and to come back to storytelling, I think it's fantastic, Chris. So your day job is working with tradies, that's contractors to other people who know them by that name, but we call them tradies in Australia. So you actually work in a company that provides tradies with the materials to wire circuits and wire houses and do electrification. I'm really intrigued with the storytelling around the workforce that's going to do all of this electrification for us. Like, I don't think most tradies today are on team climate, on team electrification. How are we going to make them the heroes of the story?
Yeah, I think that's changing though, Sol. Like, if you look in Australia, over 50% of electricians are under 36 years of age. So we have this big shift that's happening. There's about 100 registered licensed electricians or contractors. There is about 140,000 on the books. So over 50% of them are under 36 years of age. So the way that they look at this is very, very different. And we see that through the research that we do. They are concerned about the environment. They want to make sure that, in my particular work, that the products obviously have that circularity. And really have that circularity. We have some of our products, they might have a lifespan of 5 to 10 years. They'll bring in those products and put them into recycling bins into our sales outlets. They are more family orientated, more wanting to be that trusted professional. Now we have a lot of our loyal electricians that are over that age as well. They are doing it the way that they've always done it, and they, and it's a great job that they've been doing. They've been most of their life they've been in that moment of distress. My lights have gone out. Something's not working in my house. Come to fix it. Whereas the younger generation is, well, how can I make it even better than you have it now, which is, the journey that we've gone through at home. So we're working with them, a lot of that younger generation, the millennial generation and even younger, around, okay, you are going to be the trusted professional for the home. You're going to be the person that guides through this. And they see it. They absolutely see it. If there is one trade to be in over the next 10 years, it's to be an electrician, because, there's always been a bit of banter between electricians and plumbers in Australia. And, the electrician, I don't know if anybody's seen the memes, the electrician is the one that's sort of looking like they're driving the Ferrari and have got all the money, right? And this younger generation are really getting on board with it. And, we very much see it in this lens of, okay, what can we bring in terms of innovation? Home energy management systems, how can we bring that visibility and data? These are the people that can really grasp this and take it on board.
You're I get a little tear in my eye here. You're actually giving me hope for the future. You're saying that the kids are going to be all right. Not only are they going to be all right, that these kids are going to save us.
Yeah, absolutely. They are onto it. They are, now you've got segmentation of the markets, right, and of electricians. If you do the attitudinal segmentation, then not all of them are there. You've got your heritage electricians, but we do segmentation.
Heritage means a Marlboro hanging on the
lip. Yeah. That's the respectful way of saying it. But we do have two segmentations that are where we can see this happening, which is entrepreneurial spirits. So those electricians that really want to go into these new areas and drive it. And the other one is reincarnated engineers. So they're the ones that really want to optimize and get it to go. And of the electrician market, they're around 50% of the market. And we can see that they are taking on the real new innovative products. And, they are being that trusted professional. It was previously before, fix something, go away, never come back. But now it's, I can build your electrification story in the home. I can be that trusted, professional in your home, not just at distress, but how can I make this better? Because they're also equally being asked. And the gateway for that is when someone buys an EV. So when they buy an EV, you need a charger. And then you need to be guided through that really well. You don't want to put a 22 kilowatt charger in your house. You want to put that 7 kilowatt charger or that 3.5 kilowatt charger. So that there is hope, Sol. So but they're really taking it. They're pushing us as a brand. What are you doing?
You told me that, and I don't need to worry. They are starting to feel like they are the heroes of the job, and they're getting the job done.
Yeah,
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad that we're giving them cultural cachet.
Yeah, they just need to be taught, that when they go through their electrical license, they're taught all the skills that they need, but they're not necessarily taught the business skills or the sustainability skills. And that's where we come in to help them through that journey and to show them, like, yes, do your apprenticeship, get that done, get your ticket, and then we can help you build something really, really cool. Like, where do you want to go? Do you want to go into cars? Do you want to go or EVs and chargers, or do you want to go into home energy management? Do you want to go into solar? Do you want to go into battery? Do you want to go into home automation?
So are we going to see job growth there? Is 130,000? Is that enough, or are we going to double? We're going to double that?
Nowhere near enough. Yeah. So there is a big shortage of electricians. So you're going to see that grow quite considerably. The heritage electrician is falling off quick, and there's all this work, right? So we need more, and we need to teach them and coach them around how they can make this a business, and a proper business, not just something that you needed in distress. It's something that you can build and electrify a home and get it to better. Because one of the challenges for homes is interoperability. So we put all this technology in the house, but it doesn't all work together, So we're the company that I represent. We're looking at making sure that we can bring all of that together and have a one front door, because that's what the consumer wants, that house owner wants, is one front door that enables them to do what they need to do. And whether they want to dive deep into it like me, or they just want to open up the app and it says you're zero carbon emission today or whatever. So, but to get to that stage, you're going to need an electrician to help you go through that journey and guide you through that journey. Otherwise, what will happen is someone might just pop down to Bunnings and get a plug and play something, and then it's not going to fulfill the need, So there is hope, there is journey. We just need to help coach them and show them the way. But they are definitely aware that they're in the right trade for the next 10 years or 20 years. So
Saul and I, a couple of times when we've been listening to people talk about different technologies and things that people have put into their house, Saul's kind of like, how do I explain this to my mum who's in her 80s? And, and I've definitely got the same, kind of experience and concerns. And I think it seems to me, I'd be really interested to get your input, but it seems to me that we're moving a lot of the household electrification to be more kind of systems based. It's not just like plug in the toaster and plug in the microwave. The whole thing is connected into a system and a network. And at the moment, that seems, if you're trying to help somebody who isn't really confident with apps and technology and whatever, that still seems like it's quite a hurdle. What do you think about that? Where's that going? What do you reckon?
Yeah, it's not easy, right? I was trying to help my mum with telling her that gorilla that she saw running down the car park on Facebook isn't real. It's actually AI. So she was like, no, it looks real. It is real. And I spent a considerable 30 minutes telling her it's a computer. No, it is real. So we don't want to leave those people behind, right? Like, I think about it, even with my mum, and she doesn't know how to use the banking app. She would rather go into the bank, So, they probably are going to be the last cab off the rank, So it is, we do have to solve for that. But to do that, we need to solve for every everyday homeowner. Depending on, to make it as deep as they want to make it, or as little and shallow, just giving a little bit of information that they might like. So we need to cater for that. Now, when you go into the home and you do electrification, you might have that engineering mindset coming from the electrician that, but we have to dumb it down a little bit. Most people don't know what a kilowatt of energy is. This is a new unit for them. So I think the visualization of that and the interoperability and having one front door with the home automation is super important. And that's what we're focused on as a business, is to just look at it from that consumer angle, make sure the electrician does what they need to do in terms of the regulation and putting in what they need to do to make it safe. And then how do I make it easy? How do I make it as deep as I want to? So, and with all these different technologies going in, interoperability is the main issue. Because I can turn on my aircon with a different app, and I can turn on something else with a different app, but I want it in one app, So that's where home energy management systems, or HEMS, and what people call them, is super important to bring that brain into the house. So how we see it is you've got the head and the heart. And so the head is the brain. That's the final distribution, or the electrification and everything that you need over there. And then you've got the heart, which is the comfort. And that's the home automation, turn the lights on and off. And you need to bring those two together. And then the middle needs to be something that you can control it. That's how we see it. So, but it's a big challenge because it's not easy making everything talk and doing it in a way that...
As I discovered with my phone not talking to my car today, if it's all going to run on Bluetooth, we're screwed. So
yeah.
I have to ask. I mean, just from I do a lot of this work internationally, and it's being perceived differently everywhere. But one of the big boogeymen, definitely in the American and a little bit in the European conversation, is China's role in all of this. But the reality is China has jumped the gun and is doing a lot of the heavy lifting on producing the things that make all of this possible. So I would be fascinated to hear, you don't, you haven't expressed any concern about it yet. How do you see the politics of this in that geopolitical sense?
Yeah, as an individual, the other day I got Ray-Ban Meta glasses, the glasses. They look exactly the same as this, no difference, right? But they've got 2 cameras in them. And I did it because said before I did this podcast on foiling, right? And I wanted to show people, without having to hold a camera, I wanted to show people how things get together. So, I got the glasses and I'm like, okay, this is what you've got to do. You've got to do this, you've got to do that. I think that device, I was like, oh my God, privacy's gone. Like everything's gone. It is, even though we're fooling ourselves that our phones are, it's listening to you all the time. This thing is so integrated and so good that, I think it's you've got to make sure that there's cybersecurity and everything like that. That has to be, especially when you're going into your castle, that, you've got to go with firms that have got reputable backup around that and what they do and integrate that. But in terms of, where that comes from, from my own opinion, I'm like, okay, well that, convenience is king and queen, so it's sort of, do I want the convenience? Do I think about it when I jump in an Uber? Do I think, does this person, are they really qualified? I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about, when's this Uber getting to me? Maybe that's just me, but that convenience. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, if it helps us get to where we need to get to, I'm all for that. And I'm all for energy sovereignty as well. Like, we have some awesome resources here in Australia. And
the fact that we import oil just boggles my mind.
Yeah, so it's sort of like we have the opportunity to be the powerhouse. So, who's going to help us enable that? Now we need to, that's my own view, right? So, and because this phone evolution and the how it's sort of come into your homes and all the Siris and all the, Alexas and all that sort of stuff, I'm like, okay, well, we've given it away already, so unless you're an absolute island somewhere. Yeah.
So what's your next electric toy, Chris? Or what's the aspirational, if we're going to make this future fun, what do we need now?
I don't know if I need any more, to be honest. My wife would say the same. There's nothing. Oh, yeah, there is actually one. There is one. So this foiling journey, so it's a bit, there's quite a hierarchy in surfing. I didn't know this. I thought all the surfers were okay. I thought that. There's my naiveness about it. So,
wow.
Yeah, and I thought it was all the Roxy posters where they're all fun-loving and, cuddling each other. But so even
the only thing that makes American politics look easy is surf politics.
Yeah. So now there's a hierarchy now that's got an extra. It used to be the SUPs, the stand-up SUPs. They'd be on the outside of the wave. Now you've got the foils. So in foils, there's a hierarchy as well. There's prone, which is basically lie on the front, no motor, use the wave to get you up and you go. Then there's what they call foil drive, which is a very small motor, and it's probably what you're going to put in your outrigger. That's sort of like the next bit. And then there's the e-foils, which is the foils that, I started to learn on. But there's a new product that's just being developed in Australia, which is called the Jet. And basically, it's a prone board. So you have to prone, but it's got a jet in the back of the board. And so you push a button on the front, you see the wave coming. You push a button, and it jets you into the wave. and then you pop up like a prone, and then you pump around and do everything you can do. So there'll be the SUP, the stand-up SUP, the prone foiler, then there'll be the jet foiler, then there'll be the foil drive, and then the e-foiler. So I have got one of those prone boards coming, actually. So with the jet built in, it's developed in Australia. It's called Flight Lab, F-L-I-T-E Lab. Amazing product. Super high power jet, 27 kg of thrust coming out the back of that. And battery operated, 2 little batteries. And
so it's like for the 6 second
yeah,
squirt.
so it's like
it's
it's the last stage of paddling when you're it's that double
pedal. You don't have to paddle now. You just
miss it.
Yeah. You just you see it coming, and it turns as soon as it gets onto the foil. It's just like a little jet boat. It turns itself off. It recognises that the impeller's spinning a lot faster now, and then you go off and do proper, or not proper, but like a prone. So that is the next toy.
So if you're, 51 years old and you want to do the electric foil surfboard, do you get the surfboard or you just go straight to foil drive?
No, look, you would go to the particular, I've seen 70-year-olds go first time on foiling. You go to what you call a flight board. The foil drive is a little bit more, unless you had a really good surfing background, it's just like a really lightweight, and you're dealing with something that doesn't always have all the safety built in. So, you've got a Thermomix or a blender.
Safety.
You have not seen Saul kite surfing. Yeah. Safety's not it's not high on the list of priorities.
But so for a person that, is over 50 and I want to give this a go, then you'd get a flight board, and you'd learn just like you learn from surfing. You'd surf with a bigger board, 100 litre, then you'd change down to a 80 litre, and then you go to 60 litre and then a 40 litre. But it's a good journey, and you don't have to have any surf experience at all. So you can definitely, and in fact, there's a big target market for them. They've been selling a lot of boards to exactly that, those that might have a little bit more disposable cash and able to get out there and want to.
It's such a shame that disposable cash comes with a broken, aging body.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Chris, so much. I love your story. I love the ROI,
ROE,
ROC, ROE framing.
Yeah.
Comfort, environment, economics. I mean, it is really an exciting world that we're entering into, and thanks for your positivity about our young electricians that are going to save us from climate change and cost of living.
Thank you.
Cheers to you.
No problem. Thank you. Thanks for letting me come on board. Really enjoyed the discussion.
The Shameless Plug is a podcast supported by Rewiring Australia and Rewiring America. It's hosted by me, Saul Griffith, and my mate Fiona Whitelaw. Our producers are Kathleen Burrows and Caitlin Chang. You can read more about today's guest in my latest book, Plug In, the Electrification Handbook, available in all good bookstores. Rewiring Australia and Rewiring America advocate for climate action you can do today in your home and your community. Let's electrify everything.